The studio lights were blinding, the audience laughter loud, and the cameras unblinking. Bill Maher leaned back in his chair with that sly grin he often wore when preparing to land a punchline. He looked across at John Kennedy, a senator known for his sharp wit and unapologetic drawl, and delivered the words that would echo across the country. "Senator, with all due respect, you sound absolutely clueless." The audience erupted in laughter. Some clapped, others whistled. The moment felt like a knockout blow. Kennedy sat there quietly, his expression unreadable. For most politicians, that jab would have been enough to end the segment in humiliation. But Kennedy was not most politicians. He leaned forward slowly, folded his hands, and let the laughter die down. His voice, calm but firm, carried into the silence. "Mr. Maher, maybe I don't sound like the professors at Harvard or the pundits on late-night TV, but clueless. No, sir. Let me tell you a story." The crowd went quiet. Even Bill tilted his head, curious. Kennedy had that effect on people. He didn't shout. He didn't fight back with insults. Told stories. And stories, more often than not, cut deeper than any punchline. He began by speaking of his childhood in Louisiana. His father had worked long hours at a small farm store, his mother sewing clothes late into the night to help make ends meet. Kennedy described the sound of rain on the tin roof, the way his father's hands would come home cracked and raw from work. "We didn't have much," he said, "but we had each other. My folks taught me that common sense and hard work are worth more than fancy words and big titles." The audience shifted in their seats. The laughter was gone. Bill Maher leaned in, his grin fading as Kennedy painted a picture not of wealth or privilege, but of the struggles most Americans knew too well. Then Kennedy told another story. This time about a woman he had met while traveling across his state. She was a single mother, raising 3 children while working 2 jobs. She had looked him in the eye and said, "Senator, all I want is a fair chance. I don't want charity. I don't want speeches. I want my kids to have a future better than mine." Kennedy paused, letting her words linger in the air. He turned to Bill and said, "Now, you tell me, sir, does that sound clueless to you? Or does it sound like the voice of America that too many people in Washington and Hollywood forget to listen to?" The studio was silent. Not a cough, not a whisper. Bill Maher opened his mouth, but for once he had no joke ready. Kennedy didn't stop there. He spoke about what it meant to represent ordinary people, people who didn't have the luxury of laughing off politics because politics decided whether they could afford groceries, whether they could pay for medicine, whether their kids could go to college. His words weren't polished like a speechwriter script, but they carried the raw truth of someone who had seen struggle up close. Finally, he leaned back and looked Bill straight in the eye. "I may not talk the way you expect, but I listen. I listen to the people who put their trust in me. If that makes me clueless in your world, then I'll wear that badge with pride. Because I'd rather be clueless in the studio than deaf in the streets." The audience rose to their feet. The applause was thunderous, rolling across the studio like a wave. Cameras caught faces of people nodding, some even wiping away tears. Bill Maher, seasoned as he was, looked unsettled. He tried to regain control with a joke, but it fell flat. Kennedy had shifted the atmosphere, and there was no going back. After the show ended, clips of the exchange flooded social media. Millions watched as Kennedy turned an insult into a lesson on humility, resilience, and the importance of listening to ordinary people. Comment sections lit up with support. People wrote things like, "This is the first time I felt someone on TV spoke for me," and Kennedy reminded us what leadership should sound like. Even those who disagreed with his politics couldn't deny the power of the moment. Bill Maher had expected to make Kennedy the punchline. Instead, Kennedy made America stop and think. And that's the thing about voices like his. They don't fade because of mockery. They don't get drowned out by laughter. They rise, steady and unshaken, because they are rooted in the lives of Quim. Elect punches, Ellie rooted in the lives of Quick. Ellie Ruby Kiss has the luxures, texture that glides on smock. And lives will lie to see some lizards long last quick. They don't get drowned out with my quick tooth. They not see, we see, it sees quick. You will see the lies, Kareed. With CDF, my lizard, Sarisid, so why nos, we see us. I be created with love, cod to tab with us, and sorry, teka, but Greek up, it's to me was secret kai new suds, sick get it, but delights, it's a puthy sick, it's it. People who rarely get a microphone. Kennedy once said afterward in a small town meeting, sometimes they'll call you clueless, sometimes they'll laugh. But if you keep speaking for the folks back home, you'll never be alone. And in the end, that's what matters. The lesson was simple, yet profound. In a world filled with noise, the truest power lies not in sounding clever, but in being real. And on that night, when Bill Maher tried to dismiss him, Kennedy showed the country what it really meant to stand your ground, not with anger, not with arrogance, but with the quiet strength of truth.